Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today we're going to take a look at Linux Mint, but not just any Mint. This is Linux Mint 21 Beta, codenamed Vanessa. And so this is something that caught my eye. And by the way, I also got a download link in the description below so you can get the ISO right away. Now this caught my eye right away because I really love Linux Mint. I think it's a wonderful distribution, but I always feel like I'm back in 2020, and that's the only downside with it. And of course, that's not really a downside for most people. Just if you're like me and you always want to be kind of on the edge, then it's a little bit of a downside, but it's not a huge downside because you still have snaps and so forth. But this intrigued me. A Beta 21 Linux Mint sounds really intriguing, so I want to take a look at it. So I downloaded the ISO and I'm just going to load it right in here and let's check it out. So here I am in the live environment here, and this looks like the classic Linux Mint. And so here we got the installer, and I'm just going to get right to it, jump into this installer and see what we got. So once this opens up, we'll just do a quick install, and this should be pretty straightforward. I'm expecting it to just kind of be the same installer that we always are familiar with. And here it is. So by default, we got English, and I think that's good. So I'm going to hit continue. And then we got English again for our keyboard layout, and that's all good. English US, and I'll take that. And now install multimedia codecs. I always like to check that box. That's always a good idea in my opinion. So we'll hit continue. And now we are at our installation type. And so erase disk is good. So I'm just going to let it erase over the whole thing. And then there's a list of our changes there that we're going to do, letting us know that it's going to just overwrite and erase the whole disk. So that's all good. And now we have our time zone, and that looks like a winner. So I'm going to hit continue. And now I'm going to give us our usual silly name here for our username, and then pop in a password, and everything else looks good. I'm going to go with the default, so I'm going to hit continue, and there we are. So I'm going to let this do its thing, and then I'm going to pause the video, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're all set, and that didn't take long, maybe 5 minutes at the most. So I'm going to hit restart here and do that, and then we should be booting right into a new install right after I remove the medium and press enter. Okay, now if everything went fine, we should be booting in here any second now. We got our logo up there, so that's good. And any second now, there's our login. Excellent. And I see the name up there, so that's good. Log in, and then we should have a desktop or a big giant error message, whichever comes first. And there we are, looking good. Excellent. So we got our connection established, and we got our Linux Mint welcome screen looking good. So this is nice. Real nice welcome screen here. You can see that it's Linux Mint 21 down there in the lower right. Here's our first steps, and we got our desktop colors. So that's really cool. I'm just opening up the file browser here, which is Nemo. That way we can kind of see our changes a little better. And I like that. That's a nice turquoise type blue there. Then we got a deeper kind of blue, and then a brown. That brown looks kind of cool. That's kind of unique. I don't think I've ever really used brown. Yeah. Then we got orange and purple looks fantastic. That's probably one of my overall favorite. And then gold. Wow, that gold looks really nice. Cool. And then here we can select our dark and light theme. So if I switch over here, then we have a dark theme, and wow, that looks really great with the gold. I like that black and gold. That's a very nice combo. And then we got the brown, and man, I like that too. That's just like really unique. So I might have to go with that. I think I might leave that there, at least for now anyway. And then we have our panel layout, and by default we're in our group window layout here, which is icon only, which is nice. Then we have our traditional layout here, and as you can see, our previews down there are showing up, and they also show up in our group layout as well. And I think I'm going to stick with the modern there, so we'll go with that. Then here we got other choices here, like our snapshots, our driver manager, especially if you're running like NVIDIA and you need some maybe proprietary drivers. This is a great area to kind of help resolve any driver issues you might have. And then we got our update manager, system settings, and our software manager. Nice, and even firewall settings. So that's a really nice intro there right off the bat. And so I'm going in our update manager right now. Down in the taskbar, it was showing that there were updates available, not surprisingly. And so here they are, and I'm just going to run these updates real quick. I'm just going to say yes, and then sign my approval. And then I'm just going to kind of let that. And it asked me if I wanted to use a local mirror, and yeah, I'm good with that. So, and these are our different sources here too. So like here you can add in some of these other options, like unstable packages. If you wanted to add that in, you could do that as well. Increase your choices. And then you can add in some custom PPAs if you need to, additional repositories, which I would probably pretty much just leave these at their defaults personally, and then authentication keys and maintenance. So a lot of nice little choices there. That's kind of cool. I'm going to hit install update, and then I'm just going to let this do an update here real quick. I'm going to hit OK and then just log in, and then I'm just going to pause the video and just kind of let it do its thing, and I'll be back when it's done updating. Okay, it's all complete. So here it's asking for a restart, and that's all good with me. I think it did some updates to the kernel and other modules like that, system modules. So, oh, I forgot to set my local mirror. Oh, well, that's okay. It asked me, but I never did set it there. I would have just selected it from the drop-down box up there. It had a UK mirror, and so I could have switched that to a US mirror. But no biggie. You probably get the picture now. So I'm going to go ahead and restart this. I'm just going to close these windows real quick, and then just jump down here and go to my little power button and hit restart. Then we'll just restart and jump right in again. And there's our logo. So I guess the restart worked. Nothing blew up on me. I shouldn't be that paranoid. Actually, this, I bet, is a very stable beta. We shall see. Okay, now that we got all that out of the way, I'm just going to close my welcome screen here, and then I'm going to come down. And so here's our bottom panel here, and we got like our file manager and our console and Firefox. So if I open the console here, I'm just going to do a sudo apt install HTOP. That's all we can do an HTOP thingy here. Okay, so just going to magnify this a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see on video. There we go. That's a little more civilized. Now I'm going to do a uname -r, and it's showing that we're running kernel 5.15.0-41. Nice, I like that, because in the 20.3 we're running 5.04, I believe, for the kernel. So much more updated, and only 689 megs of RAM being used here at idle. So that is really impressive too. Glad to see that. Excellent. So we're off to a great start. Just going to do a Neofetch here real quick. And so here it's showing LinuxMint 21 and 5.15 kernel. Nice. Using Cinnamon 5.4.2. And then our theming. So this is all looking good. Excellent. So I'm liking what I'm seeing here so far. Now if I go over here on the right, we got our notifications here, or reports, and it's just letting us know that there are some language packs available, like for LibreOffice and so forth. So yeah, those are cool, and I would probably install that if I was running this right now on a daily. However, just for this, no big deal. And then we have our network settings over here. I just popped out of the way here real quick. And then our speaker settings here. And so there's our volume control. And here's access to our sound settings. So we can click that. And then right here we got all our sound settings. And I really like the way the sound settings are laid up in Cinnamon. That's one thing I like about this desktop, is that it's very intuitive and easy to adjust, especially if you need to switch back and forth, like from an HDMI output, or in my case where I'm using OBS Studio. It helps when I'm doing my mic. And then here we got our clock and our calendar stuff. So beautiful calendar here. Here's our date and time settings. If you need to tweak your clock, you can do that there. And then over here we got our nice menu. So this is looking great too. And this is direct access to our software center and other things in our shortcut on the favorites there on the left side. And then our pinned items. So let's look at our software center real quick. So this will just take a second to generate the cache, because it has to bring in all the information, download it, and put in thumbnails and all the other good stuff. Okay, here we are. And so now we are in our software center. And it probably looks familiar, especially to you Linux users, Mint users. And so now I'm going to just do a sudo apt update, and it's up to date, which it should be because I just ran an update. And as you can see here, this is a Vanessa release. And look at the repos. This is the main reason I did this update. See, we got the jammy repos here. So in the current stable version of Mint, they're using the Focal repos. But here we got the latest jammy repos from the Ubuntu repo. So that's really cool. And while I was jabbering here, I'm actually installing VLC, because that was right there on the front in the recommended stuff. And I like installing VLC anyways, because it takes care of any extra codecs that you might need. Even though we did check that little codecs box during install, I still like running VLC. I think it's a great player, and it's a great way to just get all your codecs that you'll probably need. So that's cool. And I'm really liking the fact that we have the jammy repos here. So that really kind of gets us up into 2021, 22. So I don't feel like I'm in the last year. And here's our wine package, which I think is probably, yeah, it's 6.03, the repack. So that's fairly decent. The latest wine, of course, is 7. And you can actually go out to winehq.org, and under their Ubuntu page, you can get the info to download Linux Wine 7. So that's usually what I do when I'm on something like this, but that's just me personally. here I just did an app search. And so these are our Wine choices here. And probably your most recent one here would probably be like the Wine 64 development. And I'm not sure exactly what that would be. Probably still 6-ish. And Wine Tricks is another thing that I would like to add when I install Wine. So that's something I recommend if you want to use some Windows applications. Wine will run a lot of different Windows applications pretty well. So I like Wine quite a bit. I do have a couple of apps that I do run that are Windows based, mostly just for day trading and things like that. But still, there's a ton of stuff that you can run in Windows, even games. I've run a few games there too. Here's Shotcut. This is a video editor that I really like to use. And so if we go down here, we can see that the latest version here is 22.06.23, which is pretty much the latest. Actually, it's the latest stable. So that is good. And that's in a flat pack. So if you were actually to get it from the Jammy repos, it's a little bit of an older version, which is not really my favorite. And so if you want an alternative, you can go into the Snap store. I just did a Google search for it, and that'll take us out to our Snap website. And this is another alternative to Flatpak. I love Flatpaks, but sometimes they're a little bulky. And if you want something lighter, a Snap is another alternative. And here at the Snap store, you can see that Shotcut's available as well. And so here you can see it's the latest stable is the same. You can also choose from the latest Edge, which is down here, 22.07.14, which is today. Wow. So that's about as new as it gets. And so installing a snap, actually Linux Mint is not really set up for snaps. In fact, they have snaps disabled. So if you want to use snaps, some people don't like snaps, but personally I have no problem with them. And I like snaps, so it's not an issue with me. However, if you're somebody that doesn't mind using snaps, then you can just come out to the Snap website here. And here it kind of gives you some install shortcuts for different distros. However, for Mint, I actually got to come up here and just do a quick search for Mint, and it'll take me out to a page. Actually, I think I can just go to their docs page. So if I just go over here and I click on docs, then I can just type Mint in here in the search, and then here I found installing Snap on Linux Mint. So click that, and then here it just gives you a real quick, easy way to install Snap on Linux Mint. So all I got to do is just take this and just highlight it, copy it, and then paste it into my terminal here. I'll just slide that over and then hit paste and press enter. You widen that a little bit, make it a little easier to see, and then make it bigger. Now you can see it better on video. All right, so I'm going to hit enter and then authorize, and that'll take care of that. Then all I got to do is just update it. Actually, I probably could have typed it, it'd be faster. But anyways, yeah, see, it would have been faster if I would have typed it. Ease. Anyways, I just backed up here with my up arrow because I already typed that before. And so now we updated our repos, and now we just got to install the snap daemon. So sudo apt install snapd, and we'll just let that install, and that'll get us all snapified. And of course, you can also install the Snap Store if you want a GUI to download snaps. And so the Snap Store is available on this page too. You just got to go down a little farther. That would be you can also find it in Synaptic, I think. Okay, so let's go back to Shotcut. And actually, I don't know why I went back here because I can't install it from here. I'm pretty sure. But here they give you the command line. And actually, we should go with that command line because it looks like it uses the classic sandboxing. So that's probably what we want to do on that is to use the classic tag. So if I go in here and I just do a sudo snap install, wait a minute, let me close this first real quick, the software manager, sudo snap install Shotcut, and oh, I forgot to put classic in there. I was just talking about it and didn't even type it. So let me double hyphen classic. And again, classic just kind of refers to the sandboxing. So here you can see that that's what they're referring to here is classic. So just copy and paste that. That's just kind of the easiest way to do it if you don't like to type, or get the Snap Store. So now it's installing it from the Snap channel. Okay, and it's almost done here, and we're all set. So excellent. Now if I go here and then go up to sound and video, it's not there. Well, yeah, I guess I'll have to log out and log back in for that to show up. It's probably because I'm not really running. You probably should restart your computer before you actually kind of run the snap, after you run the snap daemon and start it or whatever. I think you gotta restart the computer. I know if you run it from the Snap Store, the GUI, and you do an install, it will show up right away in your menu. But right now, I think I'm just gonna have to log out real quick, and then I'll just log back in, and then it ought to show up right here in the menu. Or my name isn't Fred Flintstone. And there it is. Excellent. So now if we open up Shotcut, then we should have the latest and greatest stable version. And there it is. Looks like it installed flawlessly. Nice. And if I go up to help and about shortcut, we got our latest version here, 22.6.23. So that's an alternative to Flatpak. And like I said, I love Flatpaks. I use them all the time. However, they do tend to be kind of bulky. They take up, the file sizes are pretty big sometimes because everything's all in one. And it seems like pack snaps are just a little bit more streamlined. So a lot of times for a big software, I'll use that instead. Now, if I go in here in the software manager, you can notice I didn't show you before, but there's a lot of proprietary stuff in there like Spotify and Skype and all that. And then for our Office program, we were running Libre, so that's cool. And I noticed we don't have anything here for graphics like GIMP or Inkscape, so that's something I could add. We got Hypnotics. Wow, I like Hypnotics. That's one thing I think is cool in Linux Mint is Hypnotics. That's a nice IPTV streaming app. And then there's our Synaptic package manager. That's our alternative to our software manager. And I really like Synaptic. It's one of my favorite package managers in Debian and Ubuntu. And so that's a one-time message letting you know about connections. So if I expand this out a bit, and here we got all our different categories over here. And Synaptic is not a visual app, so it is kind of like a GUI front end to the console, actually. So you won't see a bunch of thumbnails and pictures in here, but it is very fast, really efficient, and it shows you everything, even the different libraries and so forth. And it'll hook you up with all the dependencies when you install things. Really great. One of my favorites. And right now I just did a search for Inkscape, and here it is in the list, and I just hit to mark for installation because you got to mark it first before you install. And then down here you got your description and a link to visit the homepage if you like. I'm going to hit apply up here, and then that will allow me to install everything that I marked for install, which was Inkscape, and all the dependencies get marked by default automatically. So you don't have to worry about that either. And like I said, Synaptic's very fast, so really like Synaptic. It's a nice alternative to the mainline software manager that's in Mint. And now our changes are applied, so I'm going to hit close here, and that kind of takes care of that. Now we should have Mint installed. Nice. And I mean Inkscape. Not Mint. So yes, and as you can see, the checkbox is now green, denoting that it's all installed. So very cool. And if I went up here and I typed Inkscape, you won't see it. You can see it in the results, but it doesn't show that it's installed. Why? Why? Well, the reason why is because I had Software Manager open, so it hasn't had a chance to synchronize or update. So, but in here we can kind of see the description of, you can see the contrast here. You got the description and the reviews and all that. So that's the main thing I kind of wanted to show you, was the contrast between that, the visual, and Synaptic. But again, Synaptic is really fast. You don't have the overhead there, so I really like it. And here is Inkscape. It showed up in the menu. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch this, and I'm just going to select a template here. Here you got all kinds of different templates you can choose from, screen sizes and everything else. So lots of choices. I really love their templating choices that they have on startup. And then here we got our 720p. That's usually what I use when I make a thumbnail. Seems to be the perfect size. And then if we go over here, you can see that our version is 1.1.2. Nice. So we are pretty up to date. So the Synaptic File Manager, or Package Manager, I mean. Nice. So let's go over here and go into our system settings here. And if we look at this, we can start out with backgrounds. And it's got some nice backgrounds here. Some branded stuff here. And wow, that's a gorgeous shade of green there. Very emerald or jade-like. Nice. That looks great. I just hit the show desktop button there so you can see everything. And then here's the Vanessa backgrounds here. And wow, they got a lot of nice choices. This looks really cool. Let me check that one out. Whoa, that is cool. I like that. That's like a frozen crystallized bubble. That's neat. And then we got a nice landscape back there. That's quite gorgeous. And some really beautiful wallpapers. I'm impressed. And there's a trail. That looks like a place I'd go walking through. And then there's a cool city. Wow, that is nice. That looks similar to the planet I'm from. You did not hear that. And then we got digital stream. So beautiful colors there. Some great choices here. And we got a sphere and San Francisco. And that's a beautiful pick. I remember seeing that before one time. And that is really a great background. So I don't know, a lot of tough choices. There's a rose color. That kind of reminds me a little bit of the Windows 11 thing, but a lot prettier. Nice. And it's a slightly different angle too. There's some beautiful palm trees. So in the middle of the winter, that would look really nice, kind of warm you up if you're in a cold climate. And then we have our frozen again, or I think I'm going to stick with that frozen bubble. I really like that. Looks nice. So those are our backgrounds. Then we also got our settings tab here. And so here you can play your background as a slideshow, and your aspect ratio and all that can be adjusted there, but typically I would just leave that. Here's our effects panel, and typically I leave this all at their defaults, but if for any reason you want to adjust your effects, you can do that there. And then we have our themes. Nice. So with our themes, we got our minty Y dark brown, which is kind of where we're at now. And I adjusted that through the welcome screen earlier, so it adjusted everything globally. But let's say we wanted something different, like, I don't know, like purple. Maybe we want purple. That looks great. Or something else like our Mint X orange. That looks nice. Then we have our Mint X sand. And this is the dark version of the icons. And that looks really beautiful. In fact, I might actually just kind of switch to that. I think that looks fantastic with the dark. And so with the buttons, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down here and match it. So you can choose any of these colors, but why not stick with the sand? So we can just have the whole theme match, and we can do the same thing with the desktop. So just go down here and we'll find our mint dark sand right there. I'll select that, and there we go. So now everything is all color coordinated with the same color. And then up here we got our add remove tab, and when you click that, then that takes us to some extra themes that we can download. And so this gives us direct access to download these themes right off the internet, kind of like the way KDE does it. So I like that. And then here we got some settings related to our menus and so forth, theme settings. And typically I leave those pretty much at their default. But one thing I really like about Cinnamon is how nice it is to tweak the theming. Then we have our account details. So if you want to add in an avatar for your picture, you can do that right here. And you can select from any of these presets, or you can add your own. I like that sunflower. That is like, so I'm going to take that. So if I go over here and I go to my login screen, and if I logged out, that sunflower would kind of show up. At least if I went into a lock screen or something and came back on, you should see that sunflower there. Nice. And then these are our different applets here that are showing up in our panel down below. And you can also access this by right-clicking on your panel too and selecting applet. But these are all the different things that are kind of showing up down there. Our system tray and window list. The window list is what we went to when we went to the traditional, and then we have our trash. So if we wanted to add in, say, the trash, we just go down here, select it, and then hit the plus button. And then you can see a little check mark just appeared by the trash after we hit the select. And then there's the trash can right there in the panel right below me. So very cool. And that gives you direct access to the trash. Good old trash. And so I could just take something and drag it in there and toss it in the trash if I wanted to. But I really don't want to toss my video folder. But the traditional way is just to right click on whatever it is you want to toss. And then here we got our downloads. So we can download extra applets like the weather and the Cine menu. I like both of those actually. The Cine menu is an alternative to this menu. The Cine menu has more of a grid-like layout and kind of almost looks Windows 10-ish. It's really a beautiful menu. And so that's something I like running in Cinnamon myself. And I also love the weather app. And so if you want to download any of these apps that are available, we've got Radio++, that's another nice one. But these are easily downloadable just by clicking on the arrow over on the right hand side, and then that'll download those into your system, and then you would just add it the same way I added the trash. And then here's our system settings, and we can adjust our clock here, and so we can display the date if we want. So we hit that, then it shows up down here, and now we got a full date. You can even display seconds, so you can have everything going. So that's really nice too. So you can tweak that up a bit and make it nice. But for the sake of the review, we'll just kind of leave it at the defaults here. And then here's where you can change your region and your time zone if you need to, if for some reason you moved or selected the wrong one. Then here we got our extensions. And with extensions, those are like little enhancements that you can add. And so here's a download area where you can download a lot of different little things like your watermark, or set up a desktop cube, wobbly windows. That's an effect for your windows. So if you were going to download that, then it would make your windows wobbly. So all you'd have to do is just hit that little download arrow, and then you go to manage, and then you got a little checkbox there. So then you just go to manage and just click on that. And then if you wanted to activate it, you would just hit the plus button down here, and then it'd be good to go, just like that. And then these are the settings. Whoa, that's kind of wild. Yeah, I think it's because I'm in a virtual and my video settings probably can't handle it that well. And then moving onward and upward, here we got our general settings here. So if I click on that, it'll show our compositor options, miscellaneous, and our memory limit and all that. And that I would kind of keep it as default. And we have hot corners, input method. these are all like our standard stuff. Input method is great if you want to add in some alternative things like simplified Chinese. So if you want to have pinyin capability, that's the way to go. And it's got a nice convenient install there using the FC ticks. And then we got traditional Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, Vietnamese, and Telugu, or something like that. So nice. So you can also select a method framework there if you like. Optional, I believe. So backing out of there, then we got our language settings, notifications. Again, pretty much the standard stuff for Cinnamon that I've shown many times in other videos. There's our panel settings again. So that's another way to get to it. Otherwise, you can just right click down here. You can see the panel's in edit mode now, so it's all kind of highlighted in red. And here you can auto hide your panel or intelligently hide it if you don't like your panel showing up when you have a window maximized. And then here's your panel height, so you can make your panel really tall and then it's bigger, or you can slide it back and make it small, so it's taking up minimal space, or just have it in the default. And then these are your different zones, so you can adjust your settings for each zone. This is the center of the panel and then the right side of the panel. So those are your different zones if you want to just kind of scale things differently. Maybe you want the icons bigger on the left side than the right, or vice versa, and so forth. So that's where you could do that in your panel edit mode, and then allow the pointer to pass through the edges of panel. Then we have our privacy settings here, and typically I keep these on default, but you can uncheck any of those if you like. Screensaver, so if you're a screensaver fan, there's your settings set at 15 minutes there for by default. Then you got your startup apps, Windows, window tiling, and then our additional things for hardware. So again, all standard stuff. Firewall settings, our login window. So if you want to tweak your login window when you log in, you can just authenticate right here, and then it'll give all your different settings for your login. So here you can change your background if you wish, and add a grid in there if you want, change your theme, and your icon theme, and your mouse cursor, and your monitors there. And so that's kind of handy if you have two monitors and your login screen's not showing up. You can select your monitor here and set which one you want as your primary monitor. Of course, I only have one monitor, so it's not relevant in my case, but otherwise you could set in your default monitor, and I think that's the spot for that. Then here we have our display settings, and again, if you got multi-monitors, then you'll have an option down here in this area where you'll have a couple buttons that'll give you an option to mirror your displays or to merge them, and so that's nice to have too. So it's very multi-monitor friendly there. I like that. That's another thing that I think is quite cool. And of course, all our apps here, our accessories, this is kind of nice. Here's our image viewer. And one thing I like to do with viewing images is I like to be able to see HEIC files. Those are the kind of files that show up on my iPhone, like this guy. And so if I transfer pictures, I can't see those .heic files unless I have a library to see them. And so that is called heic. And I think it's a Pixbuff library, I think, like libgtk heic dev maybe. Yeah, that doesn't actually sound right. Let me open up Synaptic real quick. I kind of forgot what it was in a Debian base, but if I just do a search for heic, H-E-I-F, then I should get a result here. And there we go. So yeah, it's heic-gdk-pixbuff. So that's what I got to change it to. I could just hit install there inside the graphical, but in the console, I would just simply copy that, heic-gdk-pixbuff, and then press enter. And so when I enter it, then it'll install that. Or you can just install it right here. And then here it gives you a little description of what this actually is. And so it allows you to see those H.265 image files that you get like on my iPhone. So when you transfer those image files over there, they'll have an extension, I believe it's .heic extension. And so you need this Pixbuff library here in order to view those in your picture viewer. So I'm just going to authenticate here, press enter, and that will install that library. So now that that's installed, that gives you the ability to view those kind of images. So just a little bit of thing there. .heic, I'm just typing that just to show you what the extension is. So yes, a little bit of extra trivia that might come in handy for somebody other than me. And there's our snap folder. So that's showing our shortcut. And I think these folders are probably empty right now because I really haven't ran Shotcut and actually created any projects or anything. So there's really nothing that's going to be cached in here. But this is the folder, I believe, where you'll find your configs and so forth for different Snap-based apps that you would install. Because as you remember earlier, I installed Snap. So yes, Snap on Linux Mint. Cool. So wow, I have to tell you, this is cool. I've been in Linux Mint, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, is probably one of my favorite distros. It's just really gorgeous. It just works. It's kind of like, reminds me of back in 2012 when I bought my first Mercedes, and the feeling that I had going from like a regular car to a luxury car that just did all kinds of stuff. And probably for the first 6 months of driving, I discovered all these little surprises and little conveniences that were just, this made you say, wow, this is great. And that's a similar feeling I get when I run Linux Mint. I feel like I'm kind of in a different class of operating systems, or distros, I guess you'd say. So that's kind of a similar feeling. Linux Mint is just so polished and just really runs great. I mean, I've installed Linux Mint on my machines many times, and things just happen. You start it up for the first time and boom, you get a message that says printers detected. Just, you know, all these little things that you don't always get in other distros. You kind of got to do DIY most of the time. But with Linux Mint, it's all set up for you. And this is a beta version. And I got to tell you, everything I've found on here has been rock stable. So I really haven't found any issue except for one. And it was just a minor issue, and it's kind of an issue, the type of issue you would expect to find in a beta, because after all, this is a beta. So it's an almost certainty that you're going to find some little weird pinkiness going on somewhere. And so what I found was in the thumbnail previews in the group windows, there's an issue going on. And let me just show you real quick. The hover peak actually isn't working. So if you're in here and we go here and I hover over the icon, you can see that the video is frozen. It's not moving around, and it should be moving. And then if I go over here and I like hover into this area, it doesn't actually bring the window into focus. And it's supposed to bring that into focus, but it doesn't. And then again, this is frozen, so it's not moving in the preview. And also, I already checked in the settings, so it's not an issue there. The hover peak is activated and the settings are set okay, but they just don't work. And so that seems to be in this Windows group. The traditional window list that you have on here seems to work okay. You can't bring up the window by hovering into it. It won't focus the window by hovering into it on the traditional setting. I'm not sure if it actually did before, but I know in the group windows it should. I know that for sure. So when the hover peak just is not working in there right now, and that's something even that may even be fixed by the time you see this video. Hard to say. Like I said, this is a beta, so you got to expect little things like that. So that really doesn't bother me. I think probably in the next beta or so, that's going to be back to normal. But if you're a regular Linux Mint user or a Cinnamon user, you know what I'm talking about anyway. That hover peak should be working. And so in this case right now, it's not, but like I said, not a big deal. I mean, if I wanted to run a beta as a daily and I installed this, I think I would be just fine. And I would just kind of expect to kind of live with little things like that for a while until it got resolved. So that is not something I would even consider a con. Normal part of beta. And so Linux Mint 21, you definitely do get the double thumbs up for me. I really like the idea that I can run Mint and still be living in 2022, or at least 21, the late part of it. So I like the idea that we have jammy jellyfish for our repos. That is really sweet. I think that's great. The focal, I think, is, for me anyways, is just too old. I know it's not for a lot of people because you need that stability, and so it definitely has its purpose, but I really like being in the jammy repos here on Linux Mint. So I think that's really cool. And I think if you like to play around with different distros, whether it be on real hardware or in a VM, I think this is something you really ought to give a try. I think you might really like the experience that you're going to have in Linux 21 Beta Vanessa. And with that, I hope this was all helpful. And if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.